it's a nice evening tonight. The temperature's a little bit warmer than it has been the past few days. It was maybe 53 degrees when I just took off. And it feels fine right now. The air is pretty smooth. Even the visibility is pretty good tonight, so I'm feeling great about having this chance to fly in the middle of January. Now there's a lot of air traffic tonight. I know there's a small general aviation school right by my field there, so I always have to keep my eye out. And in fact, I'll put on my strobe light just to add visibility. Here I am flying right by a cell tower, probably 250 feet in the air. Whenever I fly, I always have one or more cameras. I'm talking like action cameras like GoPros and stuff like that. And I've experimented with some different 360-degree cameras. This one I'm using tonight is the Insta360 1R. I thought I would actually try to publish a video in 360 so that the viewers could kind of really become familiar with the wing and how a paramotor operates. So you can think of this as kind of like an intro to paramotors, but I don't mean that in the sense of this is any kind of a course. I'm not an expert, I'm not a teacher. I started flying about 10 months ago. And this is my 70th flight or something close to that. Beautiful farmland out here. I'm actually going to stay away from the cattle and the livestock. They may not be comfortable with the noise in the air. One good thing about the gear that I'm using is I have a motor that is relatively small and quiet. It means that I have little vibration, little torque, but also I don't have much power, so I can't get myself into trouble hoping that my motor is going to bail me out. I need to be thoughtful about when I'm flying low and when I'm going to need to gain altitude well in advance. If you're interested in taking lessons or going to a training school, there are a ton of great ones. You can leave me a comment down below and I'll certainly get back to you. There's no shortage of great instructors in the paramotor world. There's probably a couple that you have to be careful of, but if you reach out to the community, I'm sure you'll get pretty good advice. Gosh, how beautiful. In any event, you can see me flying a wing. This is an Ozone Spider. The wing has all of these lines that lead from the glider itself down to these carabiners and hold me up in this harness. The lines that are on the front of the wing are the A lines, and the lines that are all the way in the back are the brake lines. And you can see that I could actually pull on this brake toggle, and if I pull to the right, it's going to deflect the trailing edge there. And if I do the same on the left, I pull on the left, it's going to deflect that trailing left, and I'll turn to the left. So turning is that simple. All of your inputs when you're a beginner should be very slow and small inputs, progressive inputs, so that you can feel what the impact is and adjust. So he said if I pull to the left, I go left. If I pull to the right, I go right. And if I were to pull on both brakes at the same time, it would slow the entire glider, which is useful when you're coming in to land. But if you were to do that during flight, you would actually stall the wing and begin to fall. So you have to be careful with your inputs. Now the way I got the wing off the ground was I laid it flat and I pulled on the leading edge first. That's the A lines. So when I'm taking off, I'm pulling these A lines to get the wing up off the ground, and I just run forward. The wing inflates. other control that you see in my right hand here, and it can be switched to either hand, this is my throttle. So my throttle is leading back to this small two-stroke engine in the back. I'm flying with the Vitarazi Atom 80. It's a very small and efficient motor. It's perfect for me to kind of cruise about, but maybe not great if I want to be doing a lot of rapid ascent or rapid climbing. So I'm going to turn to the left. The correct way to do it is to look, lean, and then pull the left brake. Of course, I'm looking for things like air traffic. It could be another paramotor. It could be a small general aviation airplane. It could be a helicopter. But you always want to look before you turn. Now, when you're flying this little two-stroke motor, you have to be prepared for it to go out at any moment. And so the most important thing is actually the wing. That motor could go out right now and I could just glide back down to the earth. But I do have to have good control so that I could set the wing down in a field safely. So if controlling this wing, controlling this throttle is so simple, why is it so recommended that people go out and get training from a reputable, experienced trainer? The reason is, it's not just the control of the glider that's important, it's actually the decision making that takes place even before you launch. And some of that background that you have to become familiar with includes knowledge about weather, knowledge about your gear and equipment, your motor, knowledge about airspace, where can you take off, where do you have to stay away, and knowledge, some general knowledge about flight dynamics. So I talked about the left and right brake toggles to help me steer. But the other tool that's at my disposal is the ability to simply shift my weight in my seat here. So watch me shift my weight all the way to the right. I won't pull the toggle, but I'll be able to turn. And actually make a full 360-degree turn. So there are a lot of common questions that people have when they first learn about paramotoring. They ask, how high can you fly? And the answer is, you can fly up to 18,000 feet in the United States of America. Likely before you get that high, you would actually struggle with getting sufficient oxygen. And so it's probably better to stay under 15,000 or even under 10,000 feet. Most pilots spend the majority of their time under 1,000 feet, and you can see today I'm pretty much cruising around at about 200 to 400 feet off the ground, which is great. You get a good view and you still have some safety by being high in the air. People ask how fast do paramotors go. On a beginner wing, you may go something like 20 to 25 miles an hour. On a more advanced wing, maybe you could go 30 miles an hour to 40 miles an hour. Most wings have a trim range, which allows you to slightly alter the angle of attack of the wing. And so you could actually increase the speed. So on this wing, for example, I could probably go about 25 miles per hour in a traditional arrangement, and then I could speed up to maybe 35 miles an hour. Now that assumes that there's no wind. If there were wind, you would have to alter your ground speed calculation by the amount of the wind speed. Another question people ask is where you can fly. And you can just refer to your basic aeronautical charts to determine where you can fly. But the answer is almost anywhere.
Paramotor pilots are required to follow Federal Aviation Regulation 103, which prohibits us from flying over congested areas.
You have to stay away from major airports. You have to stay clear of clouds. There are all these sets of rules that you'll learn about as you begin your training. The other things that you have to be concerned about is that you have to fly during daylight. That can be extended by 30 minutes before sunrise or after sunset if you're wearing a strobe. But for the most part, you have to fly during daylight. Most paramotor pilots would choose not to fly midday. And the reason is that the sun heats up the earth and sends up these columns of warm air called thermals that actually make for quite a bumpy ride in a paramotor. And while it may be mostly safe to fly in those conditions, it certainly can be uncomfortable. Paragliders, for example, depend on those thermals to stay up in the air for an extended period of time. They do not have a motor, and they'll launch usually from a mountain or some other high elevation. From Indian Trail, North Carolina, and I was able to train paramotors very close to here. It was a great arrangement for me because I didn't have to travel out of state for a long period of time. I could go up for an afternoon at a time and train. Some people prefer to go to a school and just get it all over with in one shot. Do all the training in 7 or 10 days or whatever the instructor recommends. And I think that's fantastic if you can do that. Because you may be able to condense all of your learning into some really brief period of time to get a whole bunch of flights one after another. I'm just having a moment of flying here and enjoying this evening. My field is just over that tree line, so I will climb again before I land. It's actually pretty still down here at the moment. So I'm going to come in right over these trees, and when I feel like I've cleared them, I can start to ease off the throttle gently and begin to drift. And when I feel like I'm ready for my landing, I want to commit by getting out of my seat and then you'll see me begin to flare. Not yet, I'm going to wait. Flare, and I'm just skimming along the ground. Well, that's it, guys. Had a great time tonight. Really nice flight. I was nice and safe. I'm glad I didn't run into these guys when I was up there in the air. Are they making their way north? They are headed north. Amazing. It's January 12th today. So, in any event, appreciate you guys coming, checking out the channel. If you're new to the channel, make sure you drop a comment, say hello. I love getting feedback. I hope you consider subscribing. And I have a ton of shenanigans up, and I hope you guys come back and check it out.